Welcome to Duns and Sam registration, steps to receive American Rescue Plan funds. This is put on by the Minnesota Association of Townships, and the speakers you'll be hearing are Steve Fensky, myself, and Carl Christian Johannesson. This is an overview of the material included in the presentation. You notice that it talks about the Duns and Sam's registration process, but it also includes information on other issues towns should be aware of as they apply for federal funding. We start with the DUNS number because it's needed before you get into the SAMS system. A DUNS number is a financial tracking tool. It's a unique number assigned to each business who registers for one. It's issued by a private company, not the federal government, but the federal government will use this number, and it's required for American Rescue Plan funding. For townships that received one of these numbers or already had one, maybe from the CARES Act or from work with FEMA in the past, you do not need to go through the steps to register for a new number. You will need to look up or learn your number, but you may be able to skip this portion if you already have your DUNS number.
To begin the process of getting your DUNS number, you'll want to go to Dun & Bradstreet's website, which you can find at dnb.com. If you'd like, you can follow this full link, and that'll direct you to their website. After you get to their website, there should be several tabs at the top. One will be the DUNS number. The town will want to begin by clicking this tab, and once in that tab, you'll want to see if the town already has a DUNS number. You can go to either the Get a DUNS Number tab, or you can go to the DUNS Number Lookup tab. After arriving to the DUNS Number Lookup, you'll be provided with a drop-down menu in which the town will want to click My Company. After that, you'll be provided with several blanks, the only two of which that are required to fill out are business name and state and country. The town's business name may differ based upon who put it in there. Your town's name could be Town of, Township of, blank Township, or blank Town. And so if you're having trouble finding your township, please try all four of those. You can also put in the town's address if the town is having issues finding their town in the DUNS number lookup. If you can't find your town after troubleshooting, it would be best to go through the Get a New DUNS Number process. After clicking Get a New DUNS Number, the town will be returned back to the Dun & Bradstreet main page. Here you'll want to click Get a DUNS Number and then follow this process, where you'll be provided another drop-down menu where the town should say, I'm a U.S. government grantee. After hitting the drop-down menu, the town will be brought to a different looking site. This is still Dun & Bradstreet's page. You'll want to click on this link to continue on in the process. After clicking the previous link, the town will be brought to a page where it will be asked to provide its business name and state. Here the town can also put its street address and city, as well as a phone number in order to help find the township later on. The town will also be asked to enter the verification code, and if the town is finding difficulty with this, you can click for a new image. After that, this will search for the township again. If the town can't be found, you can request a new DUNS number. In this, you'll be brought to a page where you'll be asked to prepare certain documents, such as a TIN or EIN confirmation letter. This stands for Tax Identification Number or Employer Identification Number, a lease agreement, or utility bill. We'll talk about more of these accepted documents later on. After clicking Continue, you'll be brought to another different looking page. Again, this is still Dun & Bradstreet's website, so there is no issue here. Here, the town will want to continue on as a federal government grantee looking for DUNS number support. Here, although there are several ways that the town can receive support, you're looking to create a new DUNS number at this point, and this is how you would do so. After doing so, you'll want to indicate that you are actually within the U.S. and not outside of it. Next, the town will need to prepare at least two documents that indicate its correct legal business name and current physical address. the town will need at least two of the following: either a taxpayer identification number confirmation letter or an employer identification number confirmation letter. These are very similar documents that you can get from the IRS. The town could also use a lease agreement, mortgage, phone or internet bill, utility bill, invoice from a third party, or proof of insurance. After assembling these documents, if you don't have them already in an electronic form, you will need to either scan or get them in an electronic form in some way so that you can later submit this to Dun & Bradstreet. Next, the town will be asked to fill out certain information. In these text bubbles, those with a red block preceding it are the ones that the town needs to fill out. If there's no red block, information there is optional. Here, we'll start with the township email. If there is no specific email, utilize an email that will allow for a quick response, such as the designated contact person's normal email. Next, the town will be asked to provide further contact info. Again, you'll want to use the contact information for the contact person. So this could be a clerk, the chairperson, or another supervisor. If the town wants to put in other information regarding the street address, use the town's business address that it would use for any sort of bills. Here, the town will be asked to provide more information. Again, you don't have to put in any information in which there is no red block preceding the text bubble. This will be very similar information the town has done before. Remember to use a business address or its billing address. I want to make a couple of important notes here. Townships are corporations, and we'll label it as such. The CEO should be the town's chairperson, and only the blanks, again, only the blanks in red need to be filled out. Here, the town will be asked to give the name of the company leadership. Again, this is the same person who's going to be the town's CEO, and you're going to want to give the same information here. Next, the town will be asked to give some documents. These are the same documents we discussed earlier and are going to be used to confirm the town's information. Again, as discussed earlier, the town will need at least two of these documents on their computer to be able to submit the file to Dun & Bradstreet. After that, if the town has any additional notes, such as what type of document they are or how to find the information, indicate that here. In conclusion, you would hit the submit button underneath additional details, and then you should receive email from Dun & Bradstreet helping with any further steps that they may need. With that, you have completed your DUNS number registration.
Step 2 takes the DUNS number that you received and puts it into the Federal System for Award Management, which we will just call SAM, or SAM's system. This step connects your DUNS number into the federal government's SAM system, and it's how they manage the grant awards, such as the American Rescue Plan funding. Once this is done, you're going to be able to provide access to a variety of people in your township who may need it, and you will likely need to renew your SAM registration each year. So this is something you are going to have to return and do later, or the next officer is going to need to return and do later. The process takes some time. It requires we first create a personal login, and once that's done, we can connect it to the DUNS number. Again, if your township already went through the SAM's registration because of a past grant award from the federal government, you may be able to skip the registration step. However, you may need to renew your SAM registration in this system, as it's supposed to be done yearly. The first step is to create your account, and we're going to do that by going to sam.gov, or you could use login.gov. Either will get you to a login page like this. We also have a link on the right that will bring you to this page. When you're there, you're going to want to click an account, assuming that you do not already have one. Enter your email address. Check this box, and this acknowledges that you agree to the rules for this website. If you'd like to read them, you can click rules of use, but it's pretty standard stuff that you see in any web page. Your submit box will not allow you to go forward until you both put in the email and select that box. Once you have, this should turn color and you can submit. Once you click submit, you're going to be told to check your email. So you're going to have to go over to your email program, whatever you use and whatever you entered, and you're going to get an email from login.gov that's going to look like this. This is your link, and it's seeing if this is in fact your email address. If so, then confirm, click email address. Clicking the link will bring you to a page where you're supposed to create a password now that it's verified that this email does actually belong to you. A strong password. It doesn't exactly explain what it is. There's some tips below, but in general, password should be long. Don't use something short. Don't use a name or a date or identifying information. You could do a common way to do this is passphrases, 4 or 5 random words put together, and it's the length of the password that makes it a good password, not necessarily that it has unusual characters or numbers. But you could also use a variety of letters, numbers, and special characters. But the key to any password strength is its length in large part. Enter a good password. Make sure you have a way of keeping your password, and then click continue. The next step is to create a multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. It goes by either name, but it's the idea that we're not just going to use your email and password to verify that the person logging in is who they really say they are. Instead, you need to give a third piece of information. So you're going to have your username, which is your email, your password, and then it's going to send you something or require you to put in a code. And here's where you select the method you're going to use. The most common and the most familiar to people is going to be the phone method, and that's what we will select. It uses a mobile phone or a landline, either way, and it's going to give you a code that you'll have to enter when you log in. Now, if you're familiar with authentication applications, you may use that. We won't go into it here. Likewise, another option is backup codes. That's the last option. It requires you write down codes and you keep them, and you're going to use those codes to get into the system. You won't have any other codes that you'd have to provide. We recommend the phone method if you have that available to you. Then click continue. Assuming you've chosen the phone method, you are going to enter a phone here. Again, could be mobile, could be landline. It's probably best if you choose mobile, because if you are in the town hall or you're in a remote location, you don't likely have access to that landline. If you use the mobile, it's going to give you a text message if you have that available. If you don't want to use text messaging, you can select phone call, and when you try to log in, it will call you and verbally give you some kind of passphrase. It's a series of letters and numbers that you're going to enter into the web page when you try to log on. Whichever you choose after that's selected, then you can click send code. And you will receive a code. Assuming you use your phone, you'll get a text message with your code. Or if you are getting a phone call, you'll listen to it, have the code, and you'll enter it here and then click submit. If something is not working, you may select get another code, and it will try to send you a code again. It will start the process over again without you having to start over from the beginning. There's no choice here but to select agree and continue. It's just telling you that you're signing in for the first time. Here's your email address. Nothing very important here. At this point, you've created an account. You've done the first steps to it, but now you're going to have to give some more information about yourself in this account. So you return to a login stage, put in the email address that you selected, put in the strong password that you selected, and then you're going to hit sign in. It is possible that you won't need to do that authentication step, and it'll depend on whether you told it to remember this browser. So if you need to do that next authentication step, it will tell you, and you'll provide that code before you can move on. Completing your profile is pretty straightforward stuff. First name, last name, it already has your email. It wants a phone number, a contact point for you. It could be the same phone that you use to get your code, and most likely will be, but it doesn't have to be. You may select something else here. This slide appears after the last step, but it lists the information here as optional. And you may do this if you would like, but I believe you're going to have to select a authorized user after the entity is created, or somehow link it to the entity. So you may want to skip this step at this point and add yourself or others in your township as authorized users after the entity is created. This is the main workspace, the home screen of SAM, if you will, and from here you can see that you have a register entity option and you can work within the SAM system. This will be your home screen now that you have registered the entity. After selecting a register entity, it's going to tell you here's the process, and this is just a flowchart description of what you're going to do. When you're ready, you click Start Registration. It's going to pop up a blue box like this and say here's what you need and here's what you should have ready before you continue. And here you're going to want to press Continue. If you try to press Start Registration again, it won't do anything. You'll just wait there until it learns you've pressed Continue. This step will ask you to describe the entity that you're registering. So we're going to select U.S. local government. And down below, we're going to select I only want to apply for federal assistance. Now, if you were doing something else, if you were actually applying for federal contracts, you may select the first one, but I'm not aware of any township that would do something like that. If you are, it would be a special application, and you probably already have registered for the SAM system. When you've made that selection, you click Next, and another small box will pop up explaining here's what you've asked for, federal assistance awards only, and it's going to tell you here's the next steps. Provide your core data, representations and certifications, and your points of contact, which means who is able to access this registration. Now finally, we're going to use that DUNS number. You'll use the DUNS number you received a long time ago, or seemingly a long time ago, enter it in the top box, then list the legal name of your township. It will probably be Township of and your township, or something township. It could be with a county identifier, but here, to make things easier, you should only include the township name because these do get searched and it would create confusion if you added a second locality like a county behind it. After that, you'll want to add the business address of the township and select Next. After registering the entity, SAM will ask you several other general information questions about the township. Input these as necessary. Some steps may not let you move forward without putting in information, but other things you may be able to leave out. For example, financial information you may want to leave out if it allows you to move forward without inputting that information. The townships are going to receive money through the state of Minnesota. They will not receive it from the federal government, and because of that, you may not need to put in that information. One of the more important parts of the other information section is adding points of contact that will be able to get into the SAM system and look at or change information for your township. As you're registering the township, most likely you are one of the points of contact, but you may add others. And remember, as a best practice, we recommend you have more than one user on an account so that somebody is able to get in if one person cannot. You may be asked to complete representations and certifications. If so, complete them, and then don't forget to submit. After submitting all your materials and clicking Submit, you'll eventually want to check your registration status. You may get an email telling you about your registration status, so you may not need to do this step, but if you're not sure, maybe come back into the system a couple days later, and you'll see the check registration status on the front page of sam.gov. There's also options to check registration status if you log in and go to the login home screen. When you click into Find or Check Entity Status, you'll be asked to put in the DUNS number that you used for your township, and then you can search. You should not need an EFT identifier. Some entities receive what's called a CAGE code associated with their DUNS registration. As far as we know, townships should not end up with a CAGE code or an EFT identifier. So you should just need the DUNS number and then click search, and you should be provided with your township's registration and its status.
As indicated earlier, the town will need to provide some banking and electronic fund transfer information. The American Rescue Plan Act requires towns to have a bank account that's enabled for automatic clearinghouse direct deposit. The town should work with its bank to ensure that that is enabled. If not, the town will want to make sure that it is enabled. If it is not currently enabled, the town will want to update their SWIFT supplier ID number with the updated banking information if the town's current banking does not reflect this in their SWIFT supplier ID profile. If you have any questions on how to do this, please review this document linked below for a full discussion on how to update the town's SWIFT supplier ID.
Step 4 is to complete federal forms. The first form is a terms and conditions agreement. This is where the township is saying we accept this money and we agree to be bound by these promises. For the most part, it's saying you're going to follow the rules of the program and you're going to follow certain federal laws. But for the most part, it shouldn't change the way townships operate. Where it does, we'll try to point out to you that you may need to do something a little bit different. For example, the conflict of interest policy on the federal level is probably a little bit broader than it is on the state level. So we will go into those if they affect townships in any significant way. The second form is an assurance of compliance. This is saying in receiving the money, the township will abide by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In general, this is saying you will not discriminate against anyone in using the money, dispersing the money, or in allowing people to receive the benefits of your expenditures.
As indicated earlier, the town will also need to calculate the estimated payment it is to receive. So, to calculate how much the town will receive, you want to start with the total amount possible per town. The American Rescue Plan Act set aside $19.53 billion for all non-entitlement units of local governments, which are cities and towns under 50,000 residents, and this will be distributed evenly among the states. Minnesota received approximately $377 million of this, which will be apportioned equally to all the NEUs, meaning each town can receive a maximum of about $105 per resident. For example, if a town wants to calculate how much it can receive in total, a township with 250 residents can receive $26,250. There is also a stipulation within the American Rescue Plan Act of this amount can't be more than 75% of the budget. So this is a limit to the maximum amount a town can receive, and this is related to the 2019 budget. The Department of Treasury has indicated that if no formal budget exists, then the most recent annual expenditures through January 27th, 2020, which is the 2019 budget, can be used. So for example, if this 250 resident township had a budget of $30,000 or spent $30,000 from 2019 to January 27th of 2020, it may only receive $22,250 rather than the full $26,250 amount. After completing the previous information, the town should have all that is required to complete the request process. Here we can see that the town will need to prepare certain information. This will include the local government's name and mailing address, the SWIFT supplier ID number, the town's DUNS number, an authorized representative's name, title, phone, and email, a contact person's name, title, phone, and email, as well as the total annual budget from the calendar year of 2020 as of January 27th, 2020, which could also be that year's expenditures. We've already discussed finding or creating most of this information. However, we have not discussed finding or creating the town SWIFT ID number. All towns already have a SWIFT ID number. If it's not known by the town can find theirs by following this document from the lower link. Searching in this, there will be nearly 2,000 different NEUs. So if you hit Control and F simultaneously on your keyboard, you can then search your town's name and find your township more quickly than scrolling through the several thousand NEUs. After bringing together this information, the town will then be able to go to MMB's website and request the funds. Here we can see a culmination of the things we discussed before. This is what the town has prepared so far. So this will include the DUNS number, the name of the 2 representatives and the contact person, as well as a town's budget. After you have accumulated all that information, you can click the local government ARP funding request form. Next, the town board will be provided with a statement regarding ARPA, the guidance regarding ARPA, and the required documentation which the town must provide. This will include the town's SWIFT ID number, the DUNS number, the town's mailing address, 2 phone numbers and email addresses, one for the authorized representative and one for the contact person, and the most recent pre-pandemic budget. You must also be permitted by the town board to continue with this process. You must be an authorized representative. And then after being authorized, the representative may continue on. Next, the town will be brought to a page in which they'll be asked what type of local government it is. There will be several types of governments that will appear, but towns will want to use town or township, as seen here. Clicking next will bring up this extended information. The town will want to bring up its name and county and make sure it's consistent and it refers to itself on the information that it provides. The town will also want to use its SWIFT supplier ID number and the DUNS number, which is information you should already have on hand. If there are any questions, please review the earlier sections of this presentation. After you hit next, you will complete your request.
Following the steps we've outlined here should allow the township to receive the ARP funding that it's entitled to. We will make any changes needed to this presentation if we find something has changed or something more is needed. We urge you to reach out to MAT, the attorneys or the clerk trainers, if you have any other questions about this process.